and I have the pleasure to introduce to you Greg, who is in charge of our FX trading and our FX education and idea generation. And he's going to spend some time going over the overnight trade and all information related to foreign currencies. Welcome, Greg.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Mike. It's been a pretty quiet morning to start. It's August. A lot of data came out last week, and the first thing I usually look at it in the morning is, with everything going on with tariffs, the first thing I take a look at when I wake up in the morning is where dollar China is trading. That's been a great indication of reaction to the Trump tariffs. And going forward, I think everybody should keep an eye on that. Offshore dollar China, which is the symbol is CNH, right now is trading at 6.86. It got almost as high as 7 to the dollar. And then China made some comments about increasing their reserve requirements for doing forward contracts and other things. So over the weekend also, the Chinese came out and in response to Trump and tariffs and said that they're willing to give up and endure short-term pain for the long haul. And this is one of the biggest things going forward in the medium term that I like to look at here. Although it hasn't been impacting risk in equities, it is driving currencies on a day-to-day basis. The next thing, overall, overnight, the dollar is stronger, and that has a lot to do with the interest rate cycle that we are in, as opposed to other central banks in other countries. More specifically, overnight there was a little bit of a Canada, Saudi Arabia, a rift that drove dollar Canada higher. I mentioned it on the website, on the chat last night. Basically, the Saudis arrested a women's rights activist, Samar Badwawi. Apologize for the pronunciation of her name, but she is a Canadian citizen, and she was speaking out against the government and their women's rights policies. As a result, they gave the Canadian ambassador 24 hours to leave the country, and they're suspending any kind of economic ties with the Canadians at the moment. The other specific currency event that happened was in cable, which is the Great British Pound. Liam Fox, who was the UK Trade Secretary, basically said for everyone to be prepared for a no-deal scenario. He said roughly 60% chance of a hard Brexit. So the pound's on 6 months lows, trading around 129.25. The next level to watch is 128.10, which is the 5/8 retracement of 143.77 and 118.41. With respect, everyone always wants to talk about the majors. The major currencies, euro dollar and dollar yen, have been pretty boring. The euro has been in a tight range, 115.10 to 118.81, and we should keep an eye if that breaks that range. We're currently trading at 115.40. Dollar yen has been trading back and forth as well. There's really not much to talk about there. The range has been pretty tight overnight. So I've covered a couple specific currencies there. And the other one in the emerging market space to keep an eye on, and I mentioned it last week, I like to trade it. A lot of people don't trade that much of it, but it's dollar Turkish lira. As I mentioned last week, there's a rift between the U.S. and Turkey with respect to Turkey imprisoning a Pastor Brunson. That's something to keep an eye on, and we have threatened some sanctions on Turkey. So keep an eye on that situation. As I mentioned on the Opportunistic Trader a few days ago, you can Google that situation what is going on with the pastor, and that has led to some rift between the two countries.
I appreciate that. I just had a couple of questions that might help our members in our chat area. As far as, not specific trades, but sort of to get an idea in a way of how you trade. Um, do you buy trending stuff? Are you a fader? Are you multi-styled? What, like, how do you look at stuff as far as potentially putting on trades in specific things? I know you, and I know a bit that you're very news related, and you're probably one of the top news guys. You get news to the marketplace and through yourself probably as fast, if not faster than anyone else. But I was just thinking in trade generation, if you had a specific style that you like to trade.
Thanks, Larry. I like to look at what is driving the market on a shorter term basis. It's very hard to predict longer term trends, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for traders to benefit on some short term trading. No matter how big you trade, if you break down trading uh, by the day, let's say, and let's say there's 250 trading days a year when you take out holidays, your vacation, weekends. If you try to make a little bit every day, it really adds up. And for example, if you're trying to make $1,000 a day, that's not my goal, but for a lot of entry level guys, if you're trying to make $1,000 a day, it's really the losing days are what hurt you. So let's say in a week you're trying to make $5,000. That's $1,000 a day. First day you make 1,000. The second day you lose 1,000. So net you're at zero. The third day you have to make up the 1,000 you lost, the 1,000 for the Tuesday, and the 1,000 for the Wednesday to keep your average up. So I'm watching the market every single day, looking for opportunities where things, yes, some days it's a fade, sometimes things get out of whack. But my style is really, I look at fundamentals, long-term fundamentals, but I do trade short-term. And it's important to find your own style, really, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, to be adaptable to the environment. And it's interesting to me, because I always looked at this, even from the beginning of my career, whether, again, you stated before, whether you're shooting for $1,000 a day. And I always go back to the first day that I made $1,000, how hard that really was. So, to evolve as a money manager or a trader, it's really the money management. And when you put it like, you want to make $1,000 a day, which is really, really good for pretty much anyone, because if you look at it and you trade for, let's say, 220 days a year, that's not a bad living. And then you hopefully can grow from that. But what the hardest part is what you said. So you make your 1,000 on Monday, you make your 1,000 on Tuesday, and then you lose 1,000 or 1,500, and then all of a sudden it's 3 days in, and you're back to 1,200 or whatever the number is. And what's interesting about that is the way I see it, and what I think you get from us on the site is by having the ability to get really good trade idea and generation. Like, from what I see from you and your trading is, and I've seen it multiple times, is that you're able to see a piece of news, react to it, and really take out what would be equivalent to a lot more than $1,000 per se, whether that's $100 for a very small trader, or a $500,000 for a very large trader, you're able to take those averages up by making trades that I call trades that count. So having the ability to do that and money management is really the key here. And I think, and I've never really been great at trading currencies. And, obviously I'm not as in depth as you are, but I've always traded the dollar against. So I would trade the dollar against the British pound or the dollar against the euro or the yen. I wouldn't do cross currencies. And, you know, I always liked it. I thought it was pure, but I never was able to really become all that consistent. And what I've seen from you by the fact that you're able to react so quickly, you have the ability to, make money for yourself as well as help people, scour the news. And what I think for me, even utilizing you for other markets for myself, it's really helped me out a lot because I'm usually looking around for what's going on, and you're able to, really parse that out and give it to the marketplace quicker or as quick as anyone that I've ever seen. So I think it's pretty impressive.
I tried to keep markets simple, and you mentioned trading against the dollar. There's all sorts of ways to trade, and as I mentioned to you before, you have to develop your own style. My style is I look at longer term things that generate move markets, but I trade short term. I really look at global macro things. Yes, short term news you can trade off of, but these short-term indicators drive the long term. So what I've always said in my entire career is I always look for the flavor of the day or the flavor of the month or the week. Right now, the flavor in the market is a lot. It's tariffs. The two main points that I'm looking at for all markets, not just currencies, are one, more shorter term is the tariffs. What are the impacts on currencies and on markets as a result of what's going on with tariffs? And the second thing that the entire world is waiting for since the global recession, 2008, is for inflation to pick up. So those two things are driving, inflation is driving more so interest rates, which in turn drive currencies and tariffs. So those two things I'm watching out. And then with those two things in the back of my mind, I'm trading currencies on a short-term basis. So I've tried to take bites out of the market. That's been my style. I'm not a trend follower. I'm aware of the trends and technicals, but I'm more of a fundamental trader or flavor of the day trader, if that makes sense to you, Larry.
No, it for sure does. And, I think that fits our mantra here from pretty much every one of our experts. We're looking to take money out of the market as you are pretty much every day. And I call it a grinder. So, I don't really equate it to potentially, day trading, but we are, day traders that are taking P&L out of the market every day. And then by taking P&L out of the market every day, we build up our box and we're able to take a little bit more, risk and exposure as we're doing better. And, it's sort of worked for us, here where I am for years and years and years. And I feel, that you're the same way, but, you're really, really quick. And you're able to react, and you've been very, very instinctive for a long time.
With markets, Larry, patterns repeat, and how things react to certain news and events, they sort of repeat. And if you're an educated trader and you love your craft, you'll constantly find ways and research different things to help your trading.
For sure,
This is the trading aspect for you and I. We've been doing that so long. Talking about it in an open forum, that's something new to both of us, I guess.
Yeah.
It's nice to share some ideas, and I'm always looking for different people, and that's how we met each other is you, with your trading, you should always look to talk to different people and talk to people. And I love to talk to people also that disagree with me, because they help you second guess your thesis on your trades. That's really important too. Don't only talk to people that agree with your trades.
100%. And it's it's a nice breath of fresh air to have experts in all of these different arenas that could both help me and help all the members of our chat community. And I think it's interesting, all of your thoughts, and you'll be able to see Greg and hear from Greg in the chat area, throughout the day in his FX room, which he runs, and provides trading ideas and information there.
All right, Larry, thanks. I just wanted to mention it is summer. Just remember, sometimes when you look at the screens, you can see things that aren't really there. Wait for your pitch. In FX, it's a quiet week. Remember, it is August. We do have RBA, and what is common acronym for me might not be for all your listeners, but the Central Bank of Australia and the Central Bank of New Zealand meet this week. Not much is expected in terms of policy change. And on Friday, as I mentioned earlier, I'm always looking for an inflation pickup or an indicator of how inflation is doing. We have the US CPI and the important Canada jobs data on Friday. But otherwise, barring any monumental tariff news, it looks like the start of a quiet week. And like you said, you can see me post anything on the Opportunistic Trader chat.
Perfect. I appreciate it. We're going to sign off for a few to come up with some trades and ideas for the opening, and I'll be back to you guys shortly, pre-opening.
Have a great day, guys.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Greg.